Okay, another episode.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Danny. And we're here for the Danny and Troy show. Another episode. And
Another episode? Okay. Your house. Go ahead.
now we're continuing the discussion about, this really novel and, I guess, innovative idea of business play and widening the scope of the word play and enjoying it so much that we need to, I feel, bring it to the world. And this is our first way of actually letting people know through our YouTube channel is this is actually happening. So in the journey so far, Danny has been using his creative writing skills and putting down a piece that's inspired, I believe, by our logo and characters developing from that. Our logo, by the way, is the octopus encircled by a splash of water in the word Startological Services as well as Startological Systems. And what's come from that is the character of the Kraken. We talked about villains and heroes, and in this creative writing process, I'm just enjoying reading and being, I guess, lost in the words or just being in the moment of Danny's creative writing. And so far it's for me really bringing up some fundamental and deep knowledge or wisdom. And I was just, before we hit the record button, talking about what it was meaning to me. And I see the sense that it's coming out as a kind of a story about fate and destiny and perhaps the differences between the two. And in that sense, fate being something that cannot be changed. It's set in gold, set in stone, and that it's, for example, it's the fate of the earth that one day, it will be in a position that perhaps gets engulfed by the sun, or it's fate of every human being that one day we will pass away. Whereas destiny can be controlled by the choices you make in your life or influenced in some certain ways. And that's what I'm seeing as we're talking about stories of krakens and ocean journeys and adventures, pirate ships and Davy Jones' locker, and treasures to be found, or in the allurement of things like the sirens of mermaid sirens that kind of are things not to be distracted by, but are so enchanting that it's almost impossible not to. So I'll stop there and let Danny.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can stop there, because what we've done really is just, we also spoke about fables, right? Which have, unfortunately, and folklore and things like that, and mythology, which is a form of mythology, which, religion tries to take over now. It's like, well, here's what Jesus did, or here's what Muhammad did, or here's what, Buddha did. And it's like, thank you. I know you mean well, but we still have to be entertaining, even while we are moralizing, or while we are, what did we say yesterday? Giving business advice, right? There's something in that word advice that stands out for me, and that's vice. Right?
Okay.
It becomes a habit you don't want, like smoking, and or that instrument that you tighten down on, which breaks people's knuckles, and that sort of stuff, when that's
Yeah.
really what we're trying to avoid, trying
Exactly.
to go about a much more pleasurable approach.
Hmm.
And we were talking, as Troy said, about business play. And I was chatting with him about it, and I said, maybe it would be better to realize the benefits of a business play if we don't think of a play like a production, right? Like a movie, you've got a stage play, you've got whatever. But we think about it as business play, as in pleasure, as in, having a softball team that you are part of, which is part of the accounting firm that you work for, that's business play as well.
Hmm.
And that really serves to pull people together, teamwork, that whole West Coast mentality of stuff. Let's go mountain climbing together. That you'll trust me then, because I didn't let you fall down the cliff or whatever. But this is just another version.
Hmm.
We could call it business playful or playfulness,
Sure.
which I think, most of the good ideas come to me when I'm not working, right? Because when I'm working and I'm thinking about it from the everyday sense, people are pushing for achievement and this kind of stuff. Whereas you can also achieve when you're enjoying yourself. When you take the material, as I've done in a piece, I'll read you a part of it in a few minutes,
Hmm.
about the Kraken that he mentioned. We have a friendly octopus in our logo. But when he gets pissed,
Yeah.
okay, then he can be a Kraken, right?
Yeah.
And that may not be so much fun, but we're using the symbols of our business. So
Hmm.
you can see how I'm trying to how I'm manufacturing this as the residents of the octopus. And
Hmm.
the ocean, which may be a blue ocean, I think you know what I'm talking about there, right? In terms of creativity and whatever. But also examining the ocean as the recipient of everything that once floated on it and stopped floating on it and sank. And that
Hmm.
leads to kind of a fable, right? Or some sort of story about Davy Jones' locker, or people were lost their ships in storms, or you've got skin divers and their ventures, you've got submarines, you've got a lot of material that we can work with, which carries a great deal of symbolism, right?
Exactly.
Submarines have the ability to float on the surface somewhat, but then submerge and come back up.
Exactly.
There are fish there, not just octopi, but other things. And most of those objects, whether they're a treasure chest laying on the bottom of the ocean, with a lock on it, and how do you open that lock, or can you open that lock with the key that you have?
Hmm.
And I think it affords the opportunity to people who will let themselves become immersed in the story as much as I allow them to, by engineering the approach, the plot, all this sort of stuff, which closely resembles what we do anyway every day of the week.
Sure.
Whether you're a housemaid, right, or you're a corporate exec, or a factory worker, you still have those basic things that you have to figure out. Maybe not on an elevated scale. Maybe we're not all Elon Musks. Thank you, Jesus, for that one. But we have our place, and let's have some fun. Let's play a little.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the use of the word play is really quite variable.
Sure.
So just as a test, since you mentioned this creative effort here, which we will eventually, the idea is that Troy and I will take the things that we compose, whether they're proposals or business plays or whatever, and form eventually a library,
Hmm.
right? our DLS library, which can be videos because we're, as you may have noticed, on YouTube. But we also write and we publish things with commentary or comment that we do for other people with their permission, of course. Or it'll get larger, once we have more people, they'll have their own ideas about, well, you're invited to this family office gathering in Monaco. Are you going to go? And it's like, well, people don't know about that, but they probably should. Or it might be a nice to know, maybe not a need to know, but a nice to know.
Sure.
And help people feel more comfortable in our cafe or in our living room or our kitchen, whatever. I mean, we're trying to break some taboos here, which I think have principally restricted people to think that they have to follow the rules. But for me, there are no rules. Rules are just rules get in the way.
Sure.
And of course, the famous saying, rules are made to be broken. And I think that rules are broken the moment they are made. So what are they? It's like you can look at the commandments as rules. And then I would say to you, do you know anywhere where these commandments are kept? No, they're sort of like guidelines, right? But they're misinterpreted. It's like, thou shalt not. And it's like, who the hell asked you? What do you mean, thou shalt not? It's like the true interpretation in the Hebrew is thou mayest, which I think is, what is that? Steinbeck play, East of Eden, I think is mentioned in the closing chapters of that book. And you make your own choices, otherwise, how are you going to be fulfilled? You're going to chase after something, that you may never get, which is a very high likelihood, usually because, you're tempted, which you'll see this point in this, little tale that I called Many Tales of the Kraken, that even though I can't say it's fictitious because it draws from many references, which you'll see a quote or two that we may find hard to understand in the present sense, but they're dated, and they're dated for a reason, to give people the idea that this is nothing new.
Sure.
Right? I think it was like 1600s or 1700s where people were reporting on the Kraken, toppling ships and things like that. But it's not limited to the Kraken, right? Sure. What we are doing is we're forming a foundation. We're setting the stage, as it were, for the metaphorical interpretation, which can be, I believe, and that it's written with that in mind, a vehicle for understanding yourself, your expectations of yourself, the kind of problems you may run into, and searching the ocean floor, you'll see you ain't alone. You got plenty of company right down there. Lots of shipwrecks, lots of broken dreams, all that sort of stuff. So without further ado, and I'm going to be reading from my screen over here, so mind the eyes, try and look as professional as I can, and see what you think of this. And it's not very lengthy. It's like 5 or 6 pages, and I think we may be able to get a few in. Let's see what we got.
Great.
Many tales. I should have an eye patch on and a corncob pipe in my mouth.
Have your sunglasses on today?
Oh yeah, let's see if I can do that. Add a little mystery to the man with no eyes.
Sure.
Okay, maybe let's try it.
Okay.
Many tales. I feel like we should be in some kind of a dark, woody bar somewhere in a cellar.
All right.
And I telling this story to kids.
Okay.
But maybe the child in you. So here we go. And I'll try not to pause and explain myself. If I make a mistake, it's because I have only edited it once. Here we go.
Right.
Many tales of the Kraken. We know from days of old legends of a giant sea creature that was capable of pulling down ships and men to the depths of the ocean. However, When we use it to refer to the secrets of nature or the scourge of mankind or the past, we conjure up tales of fright and foreboding, warnings replete with tales of defeat and the unknown haunt. And the unknown haunt us with destruction and a destiny under the crushing weight of an ocean pulled there by the Kraken. We are victims of circumstance, innocence. The Kraken is fate, but not destiny. You may see some similarities between this story and business development, and I don't mind. Sometimes the Kraken, or giant octopus, was used metaphorically to tell us how mass migration was utilized by the tentacles of America's railroad giants. We recite tales of woe, searching the depths of men's souls to discover the motivations of why we harvest the bounty of nature when it is available to us at our own peril. For who knows what dangers lie ahead or below in the shadows. The incalculable dangers are largely unforeseen. This plenty, aka resources, is appropriated by greed, force, demand, sometimes by the demon-like jaw that serves a gatekeeper's function for the beast's expandable and retractable rib cage that has, through the eyes of imagination, devoured men and women alike. This underworld, these dark realms of destiny, are often associated with water and the mysteries that clutch at us who dare traverse her caverns, caves, and depths to find the hidden treasures of Davy Jones' locker. Still waters run deep. There lies all treasures of the imagination, ever available for examination. The Odyssey by Homer tells us of Odysseus, who travels the seas in search of the golden fleece. He encounters sirens, perhaps the mutant mermaids, only to lash himself to the mast. The temptation was unbearable, the lure of temptation that even the ablest of seamen was unable to ignore and wreck upon the shoals and reefs near shore. The allegories are numerous, countless. Still today, treasure hunters, including entrepreneurs, explore ocean's depths to acquire hoards of gold, that yellow metal, lost to storms, force, battle, piracy, adventure, lack of foresight, or simply miscalculations. Why do we do it? What pulls us over the depths of fantasy in search of El Dorado, fountains of youth, northwest passages, answers to who was there before us, or what they sought that gave men that men gave their lives and fortunes for? Did they die of self-doubt, treachery, overextension, overexertion, inadequacy, poor planning? The answers are there only for the foolhardy, the brave, vigilantes, who, tempted by unimaginable lust for conquer, acclaim, and or possession of that forbidden to most, perhaps even love or some other illusion fed to them in an atmosphere handed to dissuaded peoples, that they were never destined for greatness. This greatness is nothing but a dream, many of which tempt others to their own deaths and reach the acclaim of ignorant, deluded, and youthful enthusiasm, or just plain inexperience or curiosity. One is not only frustrated in their efforts by the creatures from below, but there are multiples above as well. Think of the mutineers who have lost faith and sent their captain to his rewards below, or the others who have walked the plank, were lost at sea, keel hauled, man overboard, starvation and sickness, or others who saw them as invaders or simply as a dot on the horizon. There are the men who ask, these are the men who risk everything for a dream. Yet they all test their mettle, try themselves against fate and fortune. Capable men who stake their lives for acknowledgement that their vision was no mirage. They were testing whether they would acquire what they sought before Grandfather Time diminished them to old age, when they were left to chant and bay at the moon, that tyrant mother of the sea, and take youth upon their knees to say, when I was young. Oh, woe are we who retire to wealth, always insufficient, always disappointing, and heavy upon our breast, when knee and head know naught but to yield. We still see the blue oceans that were taunting, luring, calling, beckoning. We still hear the waves crash upon the distant shores, the whistle of the wind through the ropes, the noisy gull aloft, the ship's bells, the sails flapping in the four winds. We recall the chill that fell upon us when we heard, land ho, after all but abandoning hope. That horrid creature that keeps one's dreams alive while being roasted alive over the pit below. Shiver me timbers. That shall never die for those of us who seek, for us who would rather die at the point of a spear than survive to a time when all we are left with is memories. To arms, the trumpets blare, revelry, but never taps, until I hear no more. Do we give thanks that we have not been drowned or devoured yet? Haven't we dreamed of what we would have been like, wondering how we would have dealt with it ourselves? Were we cheated? Are we not gamblers, fools, riverboat men, prospectors, risk takers, miners, astronauts, soldiers of fortune, cowboys, gunslingers, adventurers, and the like? Are we never to say die, lest to ourselves? Are we not slowly being devoured by the status quo? Are we food for them? They do it for us or because of us? You're in the Bermuda Triangle, just past the Sargasso Sea, out of the doldrums on your way to nowhere. Worms are in the meat and the hull. The rum keg is dry. There's nothing left. All of your ideas have dried up too. How are you to maintain peace of mind? You wander, thinking who is to blame, why fortune has not smiled upon thee. Father, why hast thou forsaken me? An ant. Anybody got an extra cross laying around with a couple of nails? Waiting for that long lost wind, losing strength, mouth parched and dry, hands ache, sunburned intense, water everywhere and nary a drop to drink. Drowning is better than dying of thirst. Creatures are swimming around the boat, which is still afloat incidentally. Which business to be in? I hear undertaker is a steady job. Burial at sea, under, gone.
Great. We know. This one.
So
Oh, yeah.
you know, I'm trying to leave a wake that rocks the boats in their dock,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To tell people, not just business people, but people,
Mm-hmm.
that you're not alone. You know,
Sure.
a lot of people have failed before you,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people will fail after you. And like they told us in college, they said, look at the person on your right. Now look at the person on your left. And next semester, they won't be here.
Okay.
You know, and I wonder, how many people from all of those things I suggested, even if they consider themselves to have failed, have not. It's like I first heard from people, they say, hell, man, you're a success already. You're the sperm that penetrated the egg.
Yeah. That's
all the rest of them, I guess, ran down your mother's leg. Sorry to be vulgar, but that's college talk.
oh,
There are other ones I'd like to say, but I don't want to, scare everybody away. So Troy, there we have it.
yeah. So yeah, that's, I think, for me, it's very inspiring, artistic and deep and meaningful and rooted in these aspects of fundamental wisdom that, because, reading it or letting you read it and hearing it, and after I kind of analyzed it, it was great with your narrative. It added a new level to it altogether. Well, not altogether, but on top. So yeah, I think these are the things that what we're talking about when we say business play. It's like having the opportunity to stop and listen and absorb and derive meaning or contemplate what this could mean to you as an individual. And it doesn't matter, like you were saying before, whether it's the original intention from the creator, the artist, the writer, but it's just a window, an opportunity for you to look through some words and see what it means to you. So yeah, I think it's a great tool. And it's not just this piece, but it's about spending the time to be in the moment or let things flow. And that's what we are here to help. Why we're here and what we're offering is assistance, or first of all, bringing it up as a point of interest that we believe it's really important to not forget, to not overlook, and the benefits that come from that.
It gives people an opportunity too, because if you've ever, well, let's keep it simple, interviewed for a job, right? Whether it's an interview for a job or just meeting somebody, which happened recently in Philadelphia at my nephew's wedding, right? Which I believe I mentioned a few things about that, is that people can't get to know you from your resume.
Sure.
I think most resumes I've ever taken the time to read, my own included, are very confusing. And I'm wondering what we draw our own conclusions, right? Well, a guy who would go from doing this to that one, first of all, he's got to be lying, right? And then and he can't have been there that long because blah, what I know, and all you're doing is just projecting yourself on a situation that you cannot imagine. But if, like in this wedding, of course, I had a couple of drunks to talk to, so that made my job easier.
Okay, yeah.
But they got to know who I was, not because I said, I was the first director of business and marketing intelligence at Pegatron. It's like, what the fuck is that, and how does that relate to me? But when you get past all of that, which I think is why a lot of parties end up in the kitchen, people aren't trying to get hired. They're trying to make friends. They're trying to find people who understand them.
That's right.
Who can relate to what it is they're saying, who can speak in a way in which I can understand without having to talk about, how you make paper in the process and why we're around here cutting all your forests down. It's like, this, what do they call it? No business talk or shop, no talking shop, right?
Right.
Who goes to a party to talk shop, even though the first question you get from people is, so what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Which means, okay, how can me getting to know you help me? Right?
Right.
What have you done for me lately? Kind of a
Okay.
thing.
Sure.
And it's like that's missed the point entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the work that I've done is by reference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People would say, you got to meet this guy,
That's
right?
right.
And then you make up your own mind from there.
Mhm.
And what I've done in this intro, because it truly is an intro, is to set the stage, set the scene,
Mhm.
right? That's what we're talking about, you know, how you get to the other shore, right?
Right.
And in one piece, right?
Sure.
Preferably.
Mhm.
But what I didn't start was the first chapter, I guess, after the preface, which begins, and I'll read just a couple of lines here to see if we can cross the border. And I begin with, this is the story of one such madman.
Right. Mhm.
He had traveled half the earth to attend a happiness conference given at the pleasure of the Queen Mother of Bhutan in Paro, Riverside, nestled among the peaks and valleys of the Himalayan mountains. His way was not complicated, except for the obstacles set by the government that pretended to protect their way of life, which was Buddhist and monarchist. He filtered in among the elite, never noticed, and was offered to speak as a list of invitees dwindled down to a few who had not expressed their views on gross national happiness, the way a child recites a nursery rhyme.
Yeah, that's what.
So we have a character intro, right?
Sure.
And he's a madman, like most people. I mean, I would say that Elon Musk is mad.
Well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, or the chocolate factory, you know, that guy. I mean, think of all these characters that come to mind that are public myth. Bill Gates, you know, which Greek mythological character or Roman character would you associate with Bill Gates? Or Joe Biden, right? Or Hillary. Then you've got Hera, right? Goddess of the underworld. I mean, those kinds of myths and stories and fables and whatever, folk tales, whatever you want to call them, are still alive.
Yep.
And if people can access them, then they access something within themselves.
Sure.
Which leads to a broader understanding than somebody saying, how much did you make last year?
Exactly.
Right? Want to double that? Come work for me. It's like, I think I'll bring a razor blade when I come to work for you. Maybe two. One for you and one for me.
Yeah. I see it. Like, I mean, I get so much. When I went to university, I had a great lecturer, and what I believe stood out from him and made his class so entertaining was his use of metaphors. So he'd be able to describe situations in the context of something that I would see, or, you know, whether it was a car. So whether we're talking about a program, but he's saying, okay, here's a car that has an engine and has, you know, and then relay that back to software development and what you need to do. But we're kind of taking it, I see, to the next level. It's like, don't just stop with metaphors and not just, you know, make up the closest thing, but use these time-tested fables and folklores that have been around, because, you know, like we just rambled off the number of names and people that they could fit in with so easily. And what that does, I believe, is opens up new insights or understanding of, okay, whether it's yourself or somebody else that's in your life, or someone perhaps you don't have a relationship with, but somehow influences, you know, your business. Mapping it to a story, mapping it to a culture, or understanding. It just opens up that possibility of going deeper and understanding more, and then planning ahead. So that's, I think, these are the benefits that I'm seeing coming out straight away from going through this process of play in a creative writing sense, and thinking about, okay, it's just oozing out in this one. We've got so many, the Kraken, Davy Jones' Locker, even, Blue Oceans and aspects of pirates and everything else that is so rich in the storytelling. So,
And we can relate those to stockbrokers, right?
That's right.
Unfriendly takeovers.
That's
The list is endless.
yeah.
And we're principally just saying, if you think you can overcome it and you really want to, and that's how you want to account for your life, right? And you believe that you can have it, which is very important, right? And then you stand a good chance. And besides, hey, whose life is it anyway?
Exactly.
Right. And if you don't make what you think you should have made, how are you going to deal with that? It's like when all these heroes, what was a hero, was half God, half human, ended up in Hades. They were described as shades, right?
Oh, okay.
So you've got not shadows, but shades of people, right? And they all talk with each other about, I guess, for eternity or whatever, about their life and what they had done, and was it complete? I guess we could call them ghosts today, right?
Right.
And you don't have to be dead to be a ghost. I've seen a couple of ghosts today myself, one riding a bicycle. And it was like, no, this is not the Wizard of Oz, and this was a guy, right? And there was no little puppy in a basket behind her. And that was kind of stupid. She should have locked the basket to keep that little Toto, from being a menace, who eventually led to her death, right?
Right.
The little dog. And all of these things are abstract enough that they can access a person's imagination and maybe help them address some issues they hadn't thought about, or, it takes time. We've been given the wrong idea by convenience stores, right? You wanna make a fortune? Go down to the 7-Eleven. It's on sale this week. They call them Bitcoins now, or cryptocurrencies, right? Take what you can and sink it into this thing, which will never produce anything for you. But thanks a lot. Keep investing. And that's not so different than being a pirate. And then here, whoever the monarch is, I think the US is trying to be the monarch now. Thou shalt not. It's like, and Russia's saying, I'm sorry, did you say something?
Exactly.
And then India and China stand up and say, yeah, I couldn't hear you either. What were you saying? It's applicable across the board.
That's
absolutely.
Right. And that's what I see in that story. I mean, as I was reading and hearing you read it out loud as well, just emphasizes those points that I kind of brought up in the beginning, but I'd like to just run through them again.
Please.
And I'm just going to shoot through it because I've got them written here. Number one is destiny depends on your choices in life, which is different to fate, which is set in, which is concrete. In this, it's the Kraken is the villain, and it represents in some ways evil. Then, given the sense of adventure, and however these adventures comes with dangers as well as rewards. The rewards and dangers are there. The rewards are there, but dangers are in seeking them. Then we have merging the business advice with the story. Then we have there is an answer, but the answer is easily mistook for something that is not real. It's an illusion. Then we talk about Kraken not being the only villain in this story. There's things above the ocean.
We can be a villain too.
Praying for success or play for success. There's a big difference in those aspects.
Ooh.
Then it's important not to lose hope. Action is most important. Then in closing, it's coming, the Kraken actually is the status quo. So what we were just talking about, the status quo with US saying this is the way everybody's, and then, okay, now we have Russia saying, hey, there's a Kraken coming out and it's going to, let's, arm the cannons and do what they can. So that's how I'm, just piecing it together with what we're talking about recently. And then peace of mind comes in. And then in the end, to my honest, and this is why I said I wanted more, because I didn't like the way it ended. It sounded like we're drowning, everything's going under, and that's the end. But then you said, oh, there's next version or next episode or next paragraph, which is what I'm looking forward to, is about this adventure of the divine madman and how, what happens after that. Where's the pirate going to emerge, and this battleship that's currently out of sea and there's a Kraken in the horizon.
Yep.
Heading towards,
and we've got a king too.
Sure.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Well, I'll spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Because let me just see. Okay, I'll give you next 2 more paragraphs.
Okay.
These were serious times, and he desired to sprinkle some fairy dust among the attendees, waiting to meet and greet the great king himself. This madman, called so because he was not of the order of them, spoke of the capital economy where happiness itself was the reserve currency. Was that not what the king had wanted, but lacked the clarity and generosity to share it with others at the cost of his own control? The kingdom was depressed. That's why they needed Buddhism. It gave, like all religions do, some fictional proposals for why work was so essential. Without it, one earned no money by which to pay for life that was structured to be zero sum. Religion, or a way of life, proposed the king, was an extension of God, or at least one's attendant to the ways that reduced the instincts of people to a subsistence level. The real rewards came when one was dead. Curious. But curiosity was forbidden and action was pointless in a place where action was treasonous. The madman threw out a seed to his global happiness conference where no one was listening to anything but their own breathing. His point was on cryptocurrency, with Bhutan being the first nation to become a state sponsor of their own coinage, perhaps called a happy coin. The vultures sat high in the trees, listening, taking notes, and moving not a muscle, but stacked to worry away with the notion and avoid any compensation due to the one from which the idea sprang, which was common among the less creative. Remember, they fed upon the dead. The living were reserved for vampires. There was among the happy folk a certain Aussie who took note as well. He called himself a data scientist, one who investigates data as a scientist would a certain specimen, one that was accomplished at converting language, voice, or the written word into numbers as opposed to letters. A true digital Gutenberg, if there ever was one. His limitation was restricted to utilizing only 2 numbers, like something akin to the labors of Hercules. The first digit was 0, which was not even considered a number, but a placeholder. Who invented it? the it of nothingness, also known as the empty set, but possibility, opportunity. This subject would be approached in their future, both philosophically and numerically. The other was one, symbolic of consciousness, that springboard of a one diminished the existence of the multitudes to the individual, the ruler and the ruled, thus one and zero, king and populace. Something people had become accustomed to in government, at work, someone to answer to, a boss, superior, etc. And practically every mode establishing a hierarchy of sheeple who fenced themselves in by mountains, augmented by culture, society, and ignorance of the outside world. There was a taboo behind every bush, in every hair, undisturbed, and meant to stay that way.
Okay.
But who the fuck needs a madman? You do. Okay, and then it gets better.
Yeah,
So we have a character now. We have two characters,
sure.
right? That for absolutely no reason whatsoever come together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But of course, all is lost in this kingdom, as I've said, right?
mm-hmm,
We don't expect to go anywhere. Don't take any action. Just,
mm-hmm.
be a good boy. Keep your feet
Right.
off the furniture.
Right.
And something has to happen.
Mhm,
What that is, we'll have to wait and see.
mhm, mhm. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I
This
don't know.
Aussie was named Troy, as in Helen of.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be more inclined to put that meeting under the category of fate or destiny. So in some ways,
Whoa.
it was like set in concrete that that meeting was always going to happen.
Thank you, Troy. That's a great suggestion.
So yeah.
So actually, just bouncing off of that, one could be fate and one could be destiny.
Oh yeah. Right.
Destiny speaking to fate.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Right?
Sure.
Guiding us somehow. Without guiding, of course. Then I do remember a bar in the basement called the Divine Madman in Poirot.
Right.
Well, no, it was Timpu. Timpu,
Oh yeah.
I think.
Right. Right.
You probably walked by it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Just to give us some focus,
Yeah.
I maybe see if I can, with all of your suggestions, which are extremely helpful, what happens next,
Sure.
to see if we can get our heroes involved in something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have
Great.
some ideas already.
Great.
Thanks to
Great.
you.
Great.
Okay.
I love it.
All right then.
All right.
All right.
That's
Good news.
good spot to end. And good spot to close this recording.
Oh, that's right. We're filming. I forgot. Hello, everybody.
And yeah, we'll be back with another one very shortly.
Time after time after time. Y'all come back now, you hear? Yeah. Okay.
Will do. Okay. Thanks, Danny.
See you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Troy. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.